As the U.S. military prepares to leave Afghanistan next year, there's a lot of equipment on the ground, and much of it, some 170 million tons, will simply be destroyed. Why leave $7 billion of gear behind? The Post's Ernesto Londoño joins us from Kabul to explain. Ernesto, the government says they don't need this stuff, it's too expensive or difficult to move back. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
We're talking about things like up-armored vehicles, those big, hulking, truck-like armored personnel carriers that have become sort of iconic vehicles during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're also talking about things like generators, desks, office supplies, you name it. They have roughly a year and a half to wind down the war and get everything out of here. And it's very, very challenging and costly for a number of reasons.
If this equipment was so well tailored to the theater in Afghanistan, why not leave it to the Afghans?
Well, that's a good question, and officials are trying to leave some of it behind to the Afghans. But for example, the MRAPs, these large armored vehicles, are probably not going to be donated to the Afghans because the U.S. military says that the Afghan security forces probably couldn't keep up these vehicles, that they'd be too expensive to keep up and too complicated to manage over time. And there's also a number of legal and sort of bureaucratic hurdles that would need to be overcome. There's very strict rules that the Department of Defense has to follow regarding what kind of equipment it can donate to other countries. And ironing out all these issues would take probably months. And right now, as the troop withdrawal accelerates, there's not a whole lot of time to play with. So they can't really wait around much longer to seek permissions and seek flexibility.
The MRAPs, for example, were specifically designed to withstand blasts. I would think it's hard to destroy one. What's the process of actually taking this equipment apart?
That's right. What they're doing is they've set up 4 large sort of yards where they have contract personnel from countries such as Nepal, and they're essentially hacking these vehicles into tiny bits and pieces using devices that look like blowtorches. It takes a very long time to destroy one of these vehicles. You'll have a team of roughly a dozen guys working on it, and it'll take them roughly 12 hours to turn this stuff into scrap.
And how many are they destroying?
That's unclear at this point. They've decided that at least 2,000 of the vehicles they have right now in Afghanistan, 2,000 of the MRAPs, are what they call excess equipment, equipment that they don't expect to ship back to the United States. The vast majority of these 2,000 vehicles will probably get hacked here in theater over the next year and a half.
It was a short but striking line in your story that there is at least some consideration at the Pentagon that if they did donate a lot of this stuff to allies, it could flood the market of equipment and hurt U.S. defense contractors. What do we know about that angle?
That's right. I mean, this has been something that Pentagon officials have been studying for months now. And a lot of different variables have been weighed. And one of the variables was, what's the impact on the defense industry if all of a sudden we dump all these MRAPs or all these different types of equipment on the market at a very low price because the military wouldn't really expect to make much of a profit off of them. Would that affect the defense industry adversely? Would that lead to some pushback? So again, that was one of the variables they have weighed, and it's unclear how big of a consideration that was in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, Ernesto, really interesting details on what it takes to draw down a decade-long massive war. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.